The Halloween Hoax. Taylor's house was not spacious enough in the countryside of Vancouver, Canada. He didn't care whether it was spacious or not. All he had in his mind was to perform a prank that he was thinking of for a long time. The occasion had finally arrived. Today was Halloween, and he was going to meet his girlfriend, Dana, at a party organized by his friend Jack. It was in the evening. Right now, Taylor was placing cameras at the corners of his mother's room. She had gone to work. In Taylor's house, it was only him and two other friends, including Jack. As Taylor was organizing this prank, Jack was curious enough. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "Dana is not only a gifted swimmer and wins the competition for the state, but she's also good at everything she does. Yet she fears fireworks. I want to do this ultimate hoax and film the prank for fun." After setting up the cameras and securing some fireworks in his closet, Taylor was all set. When the evening had arrived, it was also time for the Halloween party at Jack's house. Everybody was dressed in different costumes. When it came to Taylor and Dana, one was dressed as Edward Scissorhands, the other as a vampire. The people who had arrived for the party in Jack's house all belonged to the final year of school. Meanwhile, Taylor and Dana were drinking beers on the rooftop of Jack's house. They wanted to have their own space. Done with the beer, they began making out with each other. After a while, both engaged in conversations regarding what they would do after high school. "I will involve myself in my father's business," said Taylor. "What about you?" "I'm thinking of moving to Vancouver and becoming a model," Dana replied. "That's very highly of you," he said, and looked into the sky. "It's already late. Shall we go and watch the fireworks display? It's not that far away from Jack's house." "You know that I'm scared of fireworks, Taylor." "Well, this time," going closer to her girlfriend's face, "I'm with you. You don't have to worry." Before the party was over, the couple had already gone to watch the fireworks display. All the shebang in the air made Dana nervous, but Taylor held her hands tight. He was by her side until the fireworks show was finished. After that, Taylor requested Dana to spend the night with him. He made sure to tell her that there was no one in his house. Dana had no objections. She was in love, she thought. It was almost midnight when they reached Taylor's home. The moment they got inside, they began making out again, but midway, Taylor stopped abruptly. "I have a surprise for you," he said, and made her enter his mother's room. This was where he had placed the cameras, and the moment Dana had entered this room, Taylor told her that he would be there. Taking out the fireworks from his closet, instead of being in the room, he threw the fireworks by lighting them. He then closed the door and began laughing. The exploding fireworks made Dana freak out. "Open the door, Taylor," she exclaimed. "This is not funny." She began banging her fists on the door. The moment one of the firecrackers hit her foot, Dana became quite frantic. "Taylor, open the door, goddammit!" His boyfriend kept on laughing. As he wasn't helping her, Dana began checking different closets in the room so that she could hide there until the fireworks ended. Yet the second she opened the first closet, a bottle of whiskey fell all over her from the wardrobe. It didn't matter whether Taylor's mother was an alcoholic and she was hiding booze in her wardrobe closet. The reality was that Dana had knocked off the highly flammable alcohol all over herself. As her body began to burn, her screams became unfathomable to Taylor. He could see the wisps coming out from the room. Immediately opening it, he put the blanket over Dana's body. At that moment, he saw her burnt face and the parts of her skin splattered around her mother's bedroom. He felt like he was seeing an actual ghost. Taylor ended up covering her. Dana was now unconscious. After that, she was immediately rushed to the hospital. It was Taylor who had called the ambulance. He was scared to death thinking that he had committed a crime. The police had also arrived. Also, they had taken Taylor for questioning. Meanwhile, Dana was getting treated. The doctors had informed the cops that 90% of her body was burnt. Due to this, her lungs were damaged. An additional pipe was dug into her throat so that she could breathe. Besides, she was in a coma. Nobody had come to visit her because Dana lived alone. She had begun to do part-time modeling that paid her bills, but that was over now. The only family she had was Taylor, and he was being questioned by the cops. "Can you describe to us in detail what happened?" asked one of the cops questioning him. Taylor was nervous. He almost gulped when he mentioned, "I don't know. All I know is that my girlfriend was drunk when we came home. When I went to use the bathroom, Dana was checking my mother's room. You know, she's an alcoholic. The next thing I knew was that my girlfriend ended up finding a bottle of liquor. She also found a lighter and cigarette. She caught fire, and now we're here." The cops believed in his story because they had found the evidence, but not the truth. When it came to Dana, she was unconscious most of the time. She stayed in the hospital for a year. One time, when her eyes were opened, she saw one of the male nurses near her. His crotch was in her hand. Unable to speak as her windpipe was cut, and an additional pipe was inserted there for her to breathe, Dana couldn't do anything about it. Years went like this. Dana's moments of consciousness have accompanied a feeling of deep pain, regret, and burning. Her dreams were crushed. She wasn't beautiful anymore. Her boyfriend never really came to help her. Instead, he escaped criminal charges by telling a lie. By the time it took Dana to get out of the hospital bed and cope with herself with physiotherapy, Taylor had already graduated and had moved on. To him, he was living his best life. Dana was now a thing of the past. But when it came to her, she wasn't done. As a workaholic woman, she had begun freelancing as a writer. That way, she dealt with her pain. But to put an exclamation mark on her tragedy, she visited Taylor's house during Halloween after several years. She knocked on the door. Dana knew that he was living alone. She had checked him out online. When Taylor opened the door, he didn't recognize her. All he saw was a random girl wearing a white V for Vendetta mask. "I don't have time for tricks," he spoke and almost smashed the door behind as he walked outside. But Dana caught his arm. "I thought you liked pranks," she said. Before Taylor could do anything about it, she took out the hammer, and with all the force she could muster, Dana smashed the hammer over his head. It made Taylor immediately go unconscious. When he woke up, there was a lot of blood dripping down his face. Plus, he was in some abandoned basement, empty and dark until it got illuminated by a single bulb. Below it was standing Dana. At first, Taylor couldn't understand the person's disfigured face. He was beyond scared. It was cold, and his hands were chained. He watched the girl taking out a laptop from her bag. It then made him notice all the CCTV cameras around the corners of the basement. "Dana," he immediately uttered, and realized the girl standing in front of him. "Please stop," he screamed. Hearing her name, Dana smiled spookily. It freaked out Taylor. It was then that she opened up a live streaming channel. The tank began to slowly fill with water and chemicals. He started screaming. Dana was smiling intensely. "The world will watch on this live stream as you die in pain. You're a sick, twisted liar," she said. "Please, Dana," he pleaded. "You don't have to do this." Dana started to laugh again. "I told you I didn't like fireworks, but you didn't listen." While screaming, Taylor paid attention to her hideously disfigured face. He did feel guilty, but now, as the water was half filled in the tank, he was losing his mind. His screaming increased because Dana had made deep cuts around his body, slashing him with a flick knife, including his face. "Oh no," said Dana. "I forgot to mention that this water has added cleaning chemicals to help clean your dirty soul." "Dana, please, release me," he cried. "You destroyed my dreams," she shouted. "Now, I want you to feel my pain. I want you to die, disfigured and be the monster." It was then Dana began to leave the basement. The laptop was on, still streaming live. The world was watching Taylor die, screaming in agony. Deep inside, she didn't want to hear. Slamming the door behind her, Dana broke down to cry. Leaving the abandoned house and basement, she was on her way to the hospital. It was time for her medications. The reality was, she didn't feel relieved. Instead, she felt more pain. She knew that this suffering was inevitable, and that she couldn't do anything about it. She should have died 7 years ago. When she arrived at the clinic, the FBI were waiting. Someone had reported the live stream on Rumble. Garner was arrested and sent to the local mental institution until her trial. By the time the cops found the basement, Taylor was already dead, bled to death in a tank of chemical water. The video continued to broadcast right up until his body was recovered. The live streaming video had 50,000 likes, which says a lot about the world we live in today. The end.